They often say love is the answer, that if you love unconditionally, give endlessly, and remain tender, the world will reward you with protection, respect, and reciprocity. But Machiavelli viewed love not as a blessing, but as a risk, an open gate, a vulnerability waiting to be taken advantage of. A man who builds his life on love risks being undone by it. A man who inspires fear endures not because love is harmful, but because it's blind and the world isn't. Where affection begins, calculation often ends. You care deeply for your family, your friends, your partner. You confide in them. You forgive them without hesitation. You rationalize their actions, even the ones that wound you. Why? Because love erases boundaries. You stop measuring, stop guarding your position. You believe, if I'd never hurt them, they won't harm me. Machiavelli would have smirked at that logic. He understood that even the people closest to you might betray you if it serves them, especially when they know you won't strike back. The threat isn't from enemies, it's from the overly familiar. Your enemies respect your silence, but the ones you love, they become accustomed to your gentleness, your availability, your compliance. Eventually, they expect your loyalty without merit, demand your forgiveness, immediately lash out when you finally draw back. Because love without safeguards transforms you into a tool, not always out of malice, but inevitably. Machiavelli didn't preach the removal of love, he advocated for its control. Love must have limits, costs, intention. Without boundaries, love turns into emotional exposure, and nothing is more exploitable than a person laid bare emotionally. Let's be clear, being cold-blooded isn't about cruelty, it's about clarity. Clarity in how people change when they get too close. Clarity in the cost of being emotionally naked. Clarity in what love mutates into when it's never questioned entitlement. Machiavelli grasped what many fail to see. Those who love you unconditionally may still hurt you unintentionally, and those who stay only for what you provide will hurt you on purpose. So the remedy isn't rejecting love, it's refusing to lead with it. Once emotion takes the lead, you lose your leverage. Ever wonder why your family shrugs off your advice? Why your friends stop listening once their needs are met? Why your partner doesn't fear losing you? It's because they know your emotions outrank your judgment. They count on you to apologize first, to return to justify, to explain your emotions, to avoid imposing consequences. That predictability makes you safe, soft, easily dismissed. Machiavelli cautioned us, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Yet when it comes to loved ones, fear feels unjust. So you stop playing to win, and they begin to. And the price of keeping warm, you'll lower your standards. Tolerate what you'd condemn in strangers. Offer forgiveness without change. Remain silent to preserve the peace. But that peace, it's just everyone else feeling at ease with your weakness. When someone grows too comfortable with your vulnerability, they'll begin to test it, prod it, and eventually take advantage of it. You don't have to stop loving, you just need to love with limits so sharp they draw lines. Let them witness your warmth, but never without a barrier behind it. Because the moment your love loses its conditions, your pain becomes inevitable. It's not strangers who shatter you, it's always the ones you allowed too close. And Machiavelli understood that clearly. He wasn't paranoid, he was calculated. He realized those who know your limits, your weaknesses, your triggers are often the first to test them. Not from hatred, but because they've lost the fear of consequences. And once fear exits a relationship, respect follows. Test 1. The entitlement test. They stop expressing gratitude, stop seeking permission, stop recognizing your effort. Why? Because in their mind, you already belong to them. They assume you'll always support, always show up, always comply. And when you finally say no, suddenly you're cold, selfish, or distant. Machiavelli would say, let them talk. What you're hearing is someone grieving the loss of their upper hand. Test 2, the guilt reflex. You create a boundary, they respond with emotion. You decline, they weaponize history. You guard your time, they accuse you of detachment. It's no longer an honest discussion, it becomes strategy. Because they've learned that guilt can make you reverse yourself. And if you cave, they store that moment and reuse it. That's not affection, it's manipulation. And if guilt can break your stance, then it was never a stance at all. Test 3, the loyalty loop. You've shown up loyal, consistent, dependable. But once that becomes routine, it turns into expectation. They stop reciprocating, stop checking in, and only appear when it's convenient. And when you finally step away, they panic not because they care, but because they lost their emotional safety net. Machiavelli warned predictable loyalty will be exploited long before it's appreciated. Test for just this once, a deceptively subtle tactic. It starts small. Can you help me just this time? Can you overlook this just today? But once you agree, it's never a one-off. You become flexible because they know you won't snap. You've proven you'll bend your principles if they stay close enough. That's not love, that's pressure disguised as need. Test 5, the "you're too harsh" narrative. You speak directly, you're labeled cold. You create space, you're deemed emotionless. You stop absorbing everything, suddenly you're heartless. This is how your strength is reframed as cruelty. But the truth, they don't mourn your compassion. They mourn the access they once had to the version of you that let things slide. Now that version is gone, and what they call harshness is really just clarity. Why? Because Machiavelli saw it coming. He believed the nearer someone stands, the more they expect you to carry their chaos. And if you don't, they'll label you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll portray your growth as betrayal. Let them, because the man who's afraid of upsetting those he loves often finds himself surrounded by people who love how easy it is to walk over him. The answer: stop trying to prove you're a good person. You don't have to rationalize your emotional distance, explain your detachment, or apologize for evolving past the dynamics they relied on. You simply hold your line calmly, consistently, without hesitation. Let the criticism come. Let the discomfort settle. Because once they realize the old version of you is no longer available, they'll either grow or you'll let them go. And in either case, your stance becomes stronger. Being cold-blooded doesn't mean turning off your emotions. It means defending your emotional power with intention, especially against those who assume you'll never use it to protect yourself. Because if you don't safeguard your emotional center, it turns into the dumping ground for everyone else's dysfunction. Machiavelli didn't build barriers to isolate himself. He created filters to reveal who deserved entry. And once inside, no one stayed without continuously proving they still belonged. Let's talk about how to build that kind of power through boundaries. Rule 1, don't explain your emotional distance. You owe no justification for needing quiet, for stepping back, for saying no, or for disengaging from toxicity. The more you explain, the more leverage you give. Machiavelli would say, explaining invites negotiation while decisive action signals authority. So when someone asks, why are you different? What happened to us? Why the silence? Don't plead your case. Just say, I've recalibrated. That silence, that refusal to bleed emotionally, either earns respect or exposes those who never gave it. Rule 2, deliver consequences, not conditions. Most people issue warnings. Don't speak to me that way. If you do this, I'll be upset. Please don't disrespect me. But Machiavelli never pleaded for decency. He created environments where disrespect had a cost. You don't say, don't do that. You demonstrate. When that happens, I leave. And you don't return when they panic. You return when you choose, if ever. Boundaries don't ask, they respond. That's where their strength comes from. Rule 3, keep emotion out of negotiation. Once someone sees that you cry under pressure, crumble, when ignored, or fix things as soon as they go quiet, they stop respecting your thoughts and begin manipulating your feelings. Machiavelli wouldn't allow it, because clarity of emotion is armor, and once it's cracked, people stop aiming for your intellect and start targeting your wounds. You defend yourself by becoming unreadable when tested. No long explanations, no emotional breakdowns, no impulsive returns. Your silence is now your strategy. Your stillness, your power. If they want access to your tenderness, they'll have to re-earn it. Rule 4, set your limits and keep them fixed. Many people adjust their boundaries based on who's asking how long they have known them or how emotionally tired they feel. That's instability. That's emotional inflation, and it cheapens your value. You need firm, uncompromising principles such as I don't respond to raised voices. When I create space, it remains until I choose to open it again. I don't reward apologies without evidence of change, and you stick to them without exception. People don't challenge what's consistently enforced, they push against what's flexible. Machiavelli rarely punished, but when he did, it was swift, calculated, and final. You must adopt the same discipline or they'll keep wagering on your forgiveness. Rule 5, don't fear being labeled harsh. This is where many falter. They sense they're being taken advantage of. They feel their peace unraveling, but as soon as they draw a line, guilt takes over. Society whispers, if you're not endlessly forgiving, you're cruel. If you don't justify yourself, you're arrogant. If you withhold access, you're unkind. But Machiavelli wasn't afraid of being called cold. He feared being viewed as weak. And you should too. Let them say what they will. Let them rewrite your story to soothe their discomfort. Because if you fear image more than truth, you give up authority for appearance, and appearances change nothing. You're not heartless. You're resolute. Love without structure becomes martyrdom, and sacrifice without acknowledgement becomes enslavement. Machiavelli would never fall in a war that wasn't his. He'd step back, observe, and return only when respect was restored. That's not cruelty, that's sovereignty. This is where people hesitate. They say, but I don't want to feel numb. I don't want to lose my essence. I'm scared I won't find my way back if I go cold. That fear is valid, but it comes from mistaking strategic detachment for emotional absence. Machiavelli didn't lose touch with his feelings. He mastered when and how to access them. Because in both his world and yours, feeling everything means being ruled by everything. Cold-blooded thinking isn't heartlessness, it's control. You don't stop caring, you just stop reacting emotionally when the situation calls for precision. You continue to love, to empathize, to reflect, but only within the boundaries you've deliberately built. Boundaries that protect you from becoming someone else's emotional chess piece. Being cold-blooded doesn't mean you lack heat. It means you decide when and for whom it's turned on. That's not emotional distance, that's emotional intelligence. True control begins with reshaping your emotional reflexes. You must alter how you process pain. When someone disrespects you, don't lash out, evaluate. When they deceive you, don't spiral. Take note. When they pull away, don't chase, assess. This shift in inner dialogue changes everything. You move from why did this happen to me to what did this just reveal about them. Machiavelli would face betrayal and ask, what can I take from this moment to grow stronger? Because the cold-blooded mind doesn't see pain as a wound, it sees it as a position. You must master the discipline of delayed response. Do you know what unnerves people the most? Not fury, not revenge, but the one who witnesses betrayal and says nothing, who waits, who withdraws, who revokes access not with rage but with calm indifference, because the one who reacts instantly isn't feared, they're expected. Machiavelli didn't act out of emotion, he acted when it gave him leverage. He taught us that real power doesn't lie in the intensity of emotion, but in the timing of your response. Develop a mindset that treats pain as data. Every time you feel dismissed, overlooked, or replaced, you face two choices: internalize it or transform it into wisdom. The cold-blooded mind doesn't mourn its losses. It tracks who is willing to lose you and updates access accordingly. It reshapes pain into vision space, into strength, and loss into evolution. Because emotional impulsiveness gives the other party control over your version of reality. But when you absorb in silence, you become the one no one wants to challenge twice. You don't need to give up your heart, just protect it with a structure. Most people love like they're stepping onto a battlefield, but walk in without armor. They say, I'll give everything. I'll love them through the darkest times. They'll return once they understand. But Machiavelli understood hope is not a plan, and kindness without discipline is a slow form of self-destruction. So don't shut your heart, construct a gate. And behind that gate, the rule is simple: only consistent actions earn emotional access. Your affection must be earned, not assumed. And your care must be conditional, not due to cruelty, but because of your worth. The final shift. Accept being misread. This is where most people abandon their power. They want to be strategic but still admired, respected but still agreeable. And Machiavelli would say, if you need approval to evolve, you have already given up your freedom to grow. You will be judged as cold. You will be seen as detached. You will lose those who only love the version of you who suffered for their comfort. Let them walk away. Their discomfort isn't your burden. It's the price of losing access to the part of you that was easiest to harm. Being cold-blooded isn't lacking emotion. Being detached doesn't mean you're numb. Being strong doesn't make you unkind. But that's what they'll say when you stop overextending, over-explaining, over-accommodating. Suddenly, you're too firm, too sharp, too different. And that's where most people collapse. They either remain soft and get used or harden and lose themselves. Machiavelli found the third way the path of disciplined empathy. Now let's discuss how to stay in your power without becoming the villain they paint you as. Step 1, clarify your intent, not their reaction. Ask yourself, am I setting this boundary to cause harm or to preserve peace? Am I creating space because I'm indifferent or because I'm emotionally drained? Am I silent out of resentment or because I've already said enough? If your motive is protection, not punishment, you're aligned. Machiavelli didn't care about appearing righteous. He cared about maintaining strategic ground. And few can hold power without cruelty. That's your responsibility now. Step 2, offer grace without abandoning your ground. There's strength in giving someone another shot and being generous without being gullible. Helping someone you've distanced yourself from, if they've shown real growth, isn't dangerous in itself. The danger lies in forgetting what made you step back to begin with. So when you decide to give again, don't abandon your standards, don't erase the consequences, and don't return without boundaries. You can extend grace, but never at the cost of your structure. That's the equilibrium. Step 3, command your presence, not just your absence. Many assume that withdrawal equals control, but Machiavelli knew better. Strategic presence has more impact than absence ever could. Arrive briefly, speak directly, exit before they stop feeling the void you left. Be the reminder, not the conflict, not the chaos. The composed one, the steady figure who's always ahead, the one who exited quietly yet shifted the room by leaving. That's influence without force. Step 4, uphold standards, don't impose control. You can't make someone respect you, but you can ensure that disrespect comes with a cost. That means you stop chasing apologies. You don't demand explanations. You don't force people to understand. You just remove access. You revoke emotional privileges. You let the silence calculate their worth. If they meet your standard, you reconnect. If they don't, they were never meant to grow with you anyway. Step 5, let your kindness be intentional, not endless. You don't abandon kindness, you just stop distributing it recklessly. You give it thoughtfully after watching, with mental checkpoints and with clear exits in case things derail. And if they call it transactional, let them. Because generosity without limits may sound admirable, but it often becomes a tool against your peace. You now offer only what supports your clarity, energy, and mental wellness. That's not selfish, that's self-governance. Step 6, don't justify your boundaries, enforce them. If they call you heartless, say you're firm. Accuse you of changing, stay silent. You don't owe anyone a debate about your evolution. Just keep moving forward. Power isn't proven by explaining, it's shown through consistency. And if they miss who you used to be, let them. But access to the upgraded version of you requires them to upgrade themselves too. Balance isn't a line, it's a filter. You're not here to become stone. You're here to become a mirror one that reflects truth, clearly, offers warmth selectively, and maintains calm no matter the storm. That's strategic compassion, conditional and unmoved in its standards. You've seen the signs, you've recognized the cycles, you've grown beyond the version of yourself that was too vulnerable to be protected. Now the final transformation isn't conceptual, it's lived. Machiavelli didn't just speak of power, he embodied it. And if you want to remain sharp in a world that constantly urges you to revert to emotional compliance, you will need structure, rituals, and repetition. That's how boundaries become automatic, no more explanations necessary. Habit 1, move without emotional announcements. You don't have to declare I'm cutting you off. You don't say I'm creating distance. I'm focusing on me. You just act. You delay your responses. You stop justifying. You stay withdrawn once you've chosen to pull back. Because true boundaries don't require declarations. They're expressed in your discipline, not your captions. Machiavelli didn't need validation for his silence. He ensured it was unmistakable. Habit 2, be courteous, never overly familiar. Your kindness shouldn't be automatic. It should be earned and sustained. Greet with calm, compliment with purpose. Leave before the respect fades. This poise keeps your presence refined and grounded. Why? Because the overly accessible man is easily taken for granted, but the one who stays intentional is impossible to control. Your coldness doesn't stem from cruelty, it stems from order. Habit 3. Pause before reacting always. When someone disappoints you, you don't explode, you assess. When your line is crossed, you don't escalate, you record it. Cold-blooded doesn't mean numb, it means never letting emotion outrun logic. That pause, your new filter, becomes your superpower. And when others spiral, panic, scream, or sulk, your composure will shake them more than rage ever could. Habit 4. Never reopen a closed door without new terms. You left for a reason, don't return without one. If you cut ties, let them requalify to access who you once were. Too many go back because of an apology, because time has passed, because maybe it's different. No, time doesn't cure betrayal, integrity does. And if they haven't changed, you didn't lose anything. Habit 5. Keep your peace private, not performative. Don't make your emotional strength a public message. You didn't become disciplined so others would admire you. You became disciplined so they'd respect what they can't reach. You live quietly. You guard relentlessly. You let your control speak louder than any quote ever could. That's the final stage of strategic power, quiet dominance. No need for validation. No need for explanation.